is to help you live for today and tomorrow. So we're usually on the earlier end, but I do not recommend going and skimping on toilet paper. Hello, it's Kyle, and welcome back to another episode here. We're going to be talking about making the most of today. We're going to be talking about some life update stuff and tax season, and then we're going to finish up talking about some frugal strategies and which ones my wife and I use and which ones we do not use. So let's go ahead and start with our first topic, which is going to be about making most of today. So I was reading an article, and it was a guy that is, I assume, in his 60s at this point. He had written an article talking about regret when it came to his 40-year career before he went into retirement. And that when he went into retirement, he looked back and he was very upset with the life that he had lived while he was working. And the big takeaway that he had was that he felt like he was working toward retirement and forgetting to live during those years. And I think that is a big takeaway for all of us. Yes, I make this channel and we talk about budgeting, we talk about saving money, and we talk about spending our money wisely and not overspending and all these different things. But we also have to remember that what's the goal? What's the end point in managing our money and being wise steward of our money in the first place? Is it just to have a good retirement? No, it shouldn't be that way. It should be that we are trying to have control over our finances so that we can have the opportunity to live for today and also be set up and prepared for the future. And so when I was reading through this article, I felt very sad for this guy because that's really what he was doing. He was, according to how he was sharing things, he was prioritizing meetings, prioritizing working over at his career, and forgetting or minimizing the achievements of his kids, not really showing up to sports events, and then not going out for vacations and doing all the things that we would consider living, right? Spending your years and spending them well. Instead, he was prioritizing career advancement, prioritizing making as much money as possible, and also prioritizing saving into his 401k. But remember, we shouldn't just live for some 20 years from now or whatever age you are, like some far off future. Yes, we need to be wise with our money and make sure we are saving for that future so that when that future comes, we are prepared for it. But we shouldn't become so lost in the future that we forget to live for today. And I think that's why it makes budgeting and stewardship of our money even better and more important than it ever could be. Because yes, some would say, okay, well, that shows that we should live for today. That means that I don't need to be worried about retirement or worried about saving money or anything like that because, like you said, Kyle, we need to live for today, maximize our time. Well, the issue with that kind of thinking is that people are running up debt on credit cards. They're running up debt in other ways so that they can try to live for today. The issue with that is that if you live for today, running up all that credit, then you can't live for tomorrow because you spent everything today. And that's not the priority of this channel. This channel is to help you live for today and tomorrow. I want you to have a good life all the way through. And that's what my wife and I are trying to do too. You know, we're trying to work our way through debts and things and hopefully be debt free this year so that we can live for today and tomorrow. And we know we've been making some sacrifices where maybe we haven't gone as extravagant of vacations as we could, going out to eat nearly as much or any of those different things because we're trying to accomplish all these other goals first. And yes, that has sacrificed a couple of years, but in the grand scheme of things, a couple of years versus 40 years of your career is a very big difference. So I just want to, use this article as a reminder to yourself and to me that we have a full life to live. We're not just focused on today, saving money for some far off future. We're focused on today, saving money so that we can enjoy things now and in the future. You should be able to take a vacation now or the next year or whatever, and also enjoy your retirement. It shouldn't be a this or that kind of deal. You should be able to do both. And that's why they say saving 10% to 15% of your income should be enough to help you when you get to retirement. And of course, not just saving that money, but also investing it in a 401k or an IRA as well. But if you're doing those things, then the rest of that money that you have should be able to go into enjoying life in the moment. Yes, sometimes we have to save up for things. My wife, we have sinking funds. We will put money into those funds so that we can go off and do something that we want to do, whether it be making a home improvement project, whether it be going on a vacation, all those different things. You can do the same. So it's just like when I argue about budgets. A budget is a plan. It's not a diet. It's not you suffering the whole time. That's not the point of a budget. The point of a budget is to get control of your money, know where it's going, make a plan of where you want the money to go, and then executing that plan. That's all it is. It's not supposed to be necessarily a painful restriction. That's not the point of it. Well, then going and taking a step back, that's what finances in general is. Being stewards of our money isn't so that we suffer for years and decades at a time so that we can enjoy our last few decades or couple decades of retirement. That's not the point. The point of being wise stewards is, like I've said multiple times through this segment already, so that you can enjoy today and the future. Trying to have both things, not just one or the other. And I think about my grandparents. It's kind of the same thing. When they retired, they did nothing. I feel like they still had good experiences because family, we would go to all these different holidays at their house, and there was lots of good memories built. But when I look at my grandparents on my dad's side especially, they had been in retirement for decades, 3 decades. My grandpa retired in his early 50s. So he had 3 decades of retirement. And what did they do with it? They just stayed home, just kind of stayed there, lived right like a little homebodies, and that's it. And they didn't really do anything beyond that. And that's not what I want for you or for myself. When we get to retirement, we should be able to go and try to live our life to the fullest. But it's not just about that. My grandpa paid off their house early and all that kind of stuff. And yes, they did make some vacations, but not a ton of vacations. They could have lived a very full life in his working years and in his retirement years. So I feel like looking back on it, not to, knock my grandpa for anything in particular, because obviously he did really well with managing his money. But I feel like he could have enjoyed it more. He could have lived a more full life with what he had accomplished. Because that's probably the worst, I think, one of the worst feelings ever. And obviously this writer felt the same way, that when you come to retirement and you've worked so hard to get there, then you got nothing. You got nothing to show for it. You sacrificed friendships, you sacrificed relationships, you sacrificed your quality time with your kids, you sacrificed vacation times and all this different stuff. You sacrificed so many things to get to retirement, and then you have nothing to show for it. You have all this time, and now you can't spend it with anybody because you never built any relationships with those people, and you don't have any hobbies because you were always working, and you did all these different things, and now you have nothing to show for it when you get to the very end. So remember to live for today. Remember to make every day a good day, an enjoyable day. And yes, you may not be able to live as extravagant now as you want to, but remember, your sacrificing years should be shorter years, not decades. It should be shorter years so that you can eventually start to live fuller, enjoyable decades in the future. Basically, short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. So if you have been finding yourself spending a decade or longer making deep sacrifices, I'm challenging you to don't forget to live. Don't forget to enjoy now. Yes, you're doing a great job. You're making great gains and you're accomplishing many goals. But don't forget that at the end of the road, this isn't the board game life where we count up the money at the end and see who wins. That's not what it's about. It's about enjoying the journey and the process along with it. So if you have any comments or thoughts about that, go ahead and let me know down below. But let's go ahead and move on to the second segment of this episode. And the second segment that I want to talk about is tax season and also a little debt update here. So if you're an American, then you know that tax season is in full swing. We have till April 15th to file those taxes. My wife and I have already filed our taxes. We're usually on the earlier end because when you're on the earlier end, you get the results faster, whether or not they approve your information. And you also tend to get the tax return faster if you get a tax return at all. In our case, we usually do get a tax return because we do have 2 kids and they both get a child tax credit from that. So we do get money in return for them. And that usually means that we get a larger tax return because of that. Now, I have heard people say, well, you should strive to get $0 in tax returns because the money's just sitting in the government's hands, not getting any interest and all that kind of stuff, and then you get it later. And you could use that money and make it work for you. I understand that argument. The issue that I have found is that, one, my wife and I don't put a ton of taxes in to begin with. And the tax credits that we get are after the fact. It's not really money that we put in. It's money that we're given because we have children. And so it's not really quite the same thing. So we're going to likely be getting tax returns for the very, very long future here. And that's just the way that it's going to be. I mean, when I was looking at my own W-2, I think I only had put in anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, I think it was, in federal taxes. And that's not a lot, in my opinion. That doesn't sound like a lot. So we pretty much get most of that back too. So if I fought to try to make that 0 because I knew I had tax credits and all this kind of stuff, it's not like a huge boost. So my wife and I, we don't really try to maximize our W-2s and all that kind of stuff and try to run the numbers just right. I know some people are way more mathematical that way. I just feel like it's not necessary to do that. But again, you do you. If you want to do that, that's great. But that's not really something we do. But what we do use the tax return for is we try to cover something big, whether it be a home project or in this case, this year it's going to be tackling debt. We try to do something big with it so that we can accomplish or make big strides toward something. So like I said, we're trying to tackle the student loan debt, which once that's tackled, we will have no debt other than our house. And that's going to be a great feeling when we get to that point. Right now, we have about $11,500 in student loan debt left. And we're returning a tax return of about $7,500. So we really just need about $4,500 in money from things that we've been saving and also Alora's YouTube money to cover the difference. And from there, we should be able to take care of the full student loan debt. And right now, that's looking like we are on track to do that. So I'm thinking probably sometime in April, maybe May, but I believe it was April when we posted the video about striving to do it in a year. But somewhere around there, we should be able to give you another update and let you know that we have fully paid off the whole thing, and we can show you some numbers and talk about what we did to be able to do that in 1 calendar year. And I think that's going to be very exciting. And then, of course, we'll also look at what in the world we plan on doing after that. I mean, we've alluded to some things. You probably could make some guesses on what we're planning to do in the near future. But we were going to, want to look ahead now, because that step in the Dave Ramsey steps will be behind us. We will be done with step 1 and 2. And then we need to start looking at the other steps. We've been kind of doing the other steps. That's why we've said in the past that we're Dave Ramsey-ish when it comes to following all of the steps. But we should be able to move on and look at some of those next steps in the progress toward building wealth and being wise stewards of our money. So that's just kind of where we're at with our debt payoff journey right now, and taxes and that sort of thing. If you have any thoughts about that, go ahead and let us know, of course, down in the comments. We are always open to hearing what you guys to have. Tax season, we don't really do anything fancy, like I said earlier. We just put in the numbers that they say to recommend to do, right, when they say dependents and that sort of thing. Keep it super basic. Try not to make it this perfect math where we're not leaving any money in with the government, but we're getting a perfect 0 tax return. All right, so now let's go ahead and move on to the last part of this episode here. And this is a fun one. I actually got this idea. It's called Evaluating Frugal Strategies. I got this idea from George Camel. You might have seen some of his videos before. And he spent a video talking about different frugal strategies that people had submitted to him. And that got me thinking about frugal strategies that people use to try to save money, and whether or not some of these strategies are used by Alora and I, or whether or not they are worth your time and effort in the first place. So I figured I'd go through a few of them and let you know whether or not we use those strategies, and if we don't, or even if we do, whether or not I think it's worth your time. So let's go ahead and start with the first one here. And the first one is maximizing the trial period. So sometimes how you get a week trial or a month trial for something, and you have to put in a credit card information or whatever, and you get that free period of time, and then you have to start paying. And the strategy, the frugal hack here, is to sign up for the free trial, use that free trial as much as you possibly can, milk it for all it's worth, and then cancel the trial at the very end, and then drop the item, basically, whatever service you were using. This is something that my wife and I don't actually do. We don't really sign up for free trials and then drop the trial after the fact. If we're going to do something, it's usually going to be a deal where we're saving money on it, or we just simply want the service. We're not usually doing trials for different things. And the main reason why we don't do free trials very often is because of that stipulation of including your credit card or debit information. The reason why they do that is they're hoping that by the end of the trial period, you will forget that the trial period is coming to an end, or that you'll be too lazy to cancel it, that they will then start to collect money from you. And then you may not even be using the service anymore. You might have tried it out because you were curious, and then you got bored with it and it wasn't worth your time, and then you just never went through canceling it, and you forget about it, and then now you're pulling money for it. This is something that I've always been leery about, because we do have different subscriptions and different things that we're keeping track, and that's just one more thing that has to be tracked. And if you miss it, now you're wasting unnecessary amounts of money on that service. So that's actually something that my wife and I don't use. I understand it, and I think it's actually a good hack to do. I don't necessarily think it's a bad one, but it is one you have to be on top of. You can't be lazy with it, because if you are, that's what they're hoping for, and they're going to try to get your money that way after the fact. The next one is cutting out toilet paper from your budget. And it's by using a bidet. So if you don't know what a bidet is, it's something that attaches to your toilet, sprays water up there, and kind of cleans you so that you don't need to use toilet paper or don't need to use very much toilet paper. Now, this is something my wife and I do not do. We use toilet paper. We don't use the fanciest kind, but we also don't use the cheapest kind. We're in that middle of the road area, and that's just simply how we do it. We are not trying to find frugal hacks for toilet paper. I feel like toilet paper is already fairly cheap to begin with, and whatever little bits of money you are saving in toilet paper spending, I don't think it's worth it in the grand scheme of things. So we don't do it. It's not really worth our time and effort. Although I do know some relatives of mine that do have a bidet and they swear by it and they think it's awesome. Maybe it's something worth trying out or considering. But considering our water bill that we have, it's probably not going to really be cheaper anyway, because then we're spending extra water to do what a bidet needs to do. So even then, I don't think it would be a money-saving hack. It would just be a we like to do this hack more than anything. So yeah, that's something that, I mean, if you have a bidet, go ahead and let us know in the comments down below if you like it or not, or if you think it's overrated. I don't know. Never used one in my life, but that was one that was mentioned in the George Camel video, and I thought it was pretty funny. But I do not recommend going and skimping on toilet paper. It's not worth the money, in my opinion. The next one is creating spending friction. And this is one that I have talked about in my overspending tips. So spending friction is where you make it difficult for yourself to spend money on things that you know you would not give much thought to until after the month is over and you're going, where'd all my money go? So this would be things like, if you're a big online spender, taking away the ease of filling in your credit card information or your debit card information, that you actually have to type it out. That will put that friction there where if that item really is not that important to you, then you'll go, I'm not going to even bother with typing and all this stuff because it's not worth it in the first place. So this is something that my wife and I do use at times, this spending friction hack. One of the comments in the George Camel video mentioned how they would put their wallet in their trunk so that they'd have to go to their trunk to get their wallet to then buy things. I think that's a bit over excessive when it comes to spending friction, but I guess if you are somebody that's extremely compulsive and you're having a hard time saying no to different products, then I guess you do need to go to the extreme, right? But I don't think for most people that you would need to go to that kind of extreme to save money. But it is a good hack to do. And if you want to, after this video, go ahead and check out my overspending tips and see if there's any other hacks from there that you want to use as well. The next one is canceling your phone and internet plan when the price is increased. This is another one that my wife and I use. We will threaten to switch. We will find a competitor with a better deal. Then we'll go and proceed with the canceling process. And that's usually when they cave and they'll say, you know what? We'll match their deal. How about you get this amount instead? So we'll often do that because that helps us save money. And the internet and phone people and all those different people that do that kind of stuff, they are banking on you being unwilling to pick up the phone and cancel. That's what they're banking on. They're hoping that you will continue to be too lazy to go through with the process, so they can just continue to raise up the price. I remember one time when I was talking with my internet provider, and I was saying, hey, you know, this is a lot of money. Can we work things out here? And they said, oh, no, sorry, inflation, we can't do it. Sorry, you know, yada, yada, yada. It is what it is. That's just the bill that it was. And it was from $45 to $60 a month is what the jump was going to be. So then I called them up and said, okay, I'm switching. I'm going to go to your competitor who's offering $40 a month. And then they were like, oh, well, we'll go ahead and offer you $30 if you stick around. So of course I took the deal, but it's funny because just a little while ago you told me that inflation was the reason why you couldn't lower my bill, but then when I leave, all of a sudden now $30 works instead of 60? I don't get it. What just happened? Well, it turns out that the whole inflation excuse was just a lie, and they were hoping again that I would be unwilling to follow through with the threat. So make sure that you're doing that with your own stuff. I recommend that hack for sure, because we have saved a lot of money that way, and it does not require a whole lot of effort. It really doesn't. I know some of these frugal hacks require lifestyle changes and effort. That one does not. It's like one phone call a year, and you can save hundreds of dollars a year, sometimes hundreds of dollars in a month too, depending on how drastic of a drop it is. So I highly recommend that frugal hack. That's a good one. The next one that we have here is patching clothes and shoes to extend the use. My wife and I don't do this one. We've thought about sewing my clothes from time to time, but neither of us know how to sew. None of us know, and we know relatives that do, and sometimes they do patch up clothing here and there, but it's very rare, doesn't happen very often. This is just something we don't do. I understand it a little bit, especially like shirts and pants and things like that. Sometimes patching that up is a good way to save money, but shoes, I just can't see it. Once the soles break, it's over. That shoe's done. You need to find a different shoe. And it's going to probably wear your feet out and all that kind of stuff if you're patching it and that sort of thing. I don't think it's worth the money. I think it's worth saving up a little bit, thinking a little bit ahead, and then spending the money to get better stuff. And this is something that I'm in the process of doing right now with my wardrobe in particular, not necessarily my shoes, because I've got stuff from high school that I'm still wearing. And really, I've maximized its use. It's time to move on and pick new stuff instead of just trying to keep using it, even if it looks really rough, or trying to patch it up. So I don't really think it's fully worth your while, although I guess I could see it with pants. Pants is expensive, especially jeans. If you're a guy with buying jeans and stuff, you know it's very expensive. So I can sort of see it. If you're handy with sewing, then that's probably an amazing hack to save money. But my wife and I, we're not, so it's not really a good hack for us. The next one is moving in with family to reduce rent. I really think that depends on your life situation. If you're married, I don't think that's a good idea because you have different ways of operating and doing things compared to your other relatives. And that could cause friction, that could cause arguments, and I don't think you really want to hurt your relationship with your family or friends by moving in with them like that. So I understand it, and the hack probably does save a lot of money, especially depending on where you live, but I'm just not sure it's worth, the savings are worth the potential relationship damage that you could have with your family and friends. But I mean, if you're single, this could work better. I know friends that have done like bachelor pad things where they and a few friends all rented one particular apartment and that sort of thing, and it worked out well for them. So I mean, if it depends on your situation in life. I think if you're single, this is totally a doable hack. But if you're married, especially if you have kids, I don't think it's a doable hack at all. You need probably your own space. Even if it was just for saving money, it's better off to have your own space and protect those other relationships. Okay, almost done here. The thermostat. Thermostat adjustments. Cold showers. So, we sort of do this. Not exactly, but we sort of. What I mean by that is, since probably the first year that we moved into this house, I have been slowly adjusting the thermostat. It used to be 70 degrees, just flat. That's what it was, 7 degrees Fahrenheit. And at night, 66 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's it. That's the whole thing. But now it's 72 degrees throughout the day and then about 62 degrees at night. So I have been making some adjustments there. I don't think they're super extreme. I mean, maybe you disagree there, but it's been just slight degree changes in order to save some money. Now, have I seen a lot of savings? I would say no, but it's because our electric and gas company has been slowly raising the rates over the past few years. So really, our bill has been more stagnant because of those changes. So yes, I am saving money. It just doesn't feel like it because my bill is pretty much looking the same as it has the past few years. But that's because they've been raising the rates during that time period. And I've been adjusting our usage during that time period too. But it is a good savings, but it really depends on how comfortable you are and if it's worth it. The cold shower one, no. We don't do that. I don't know if it's even worth it, saving a little bit in that heat. I don't know if it's worth it. I guess it depends on if you're a 2-shower type person per day. I know there are people out there that are like that. If you're a 2-shower per day person, then okay, cold showers might be the way to go for you. But I don't know. That's a very difficult one for me to get on board with. I don't know anybody in this family, my family, that would be okay with cold showers. So I don't think that's a hack that's worth it. And then rounding it out, cutting your own hair. Now this one, yes, especially, I mean, not that we do it, but what I'm saying is, yes, this one could save you a good chunk of money, especially if you're cutting your hair every single month. And then, we all know that it's like $20, $25, $30 now per haircut. And if you do the math on that, that's a lot of money over a period of 1 year. So if you can cut your own hair, you are saving yourself $300 or more a year just by making that one change. The downside to that is that you gotta know how to do it. You gotta be willing to look a little crazy looking the first few times because it's probably gonna look rough at first. And then also you gotta be able to get the equipment for it too. This is not something that I do. What I do is I have like a different hack, I guess you could say. Instead of cutting my hair every single month, I get my hair cut every 3 months, every 4 months. And so it's only about 4 times a year that I'm getting my hair cut. And if I do get my hair cut, I look for deals. So that, like, for example, Great Clips, they're a very large chain. They're all over the place. They do deals at times where they will significantly reduce their haircut charge, like $10 instead of $20, $25. And that's when I will go in and get a haircut. So I can save some good money that way too. So I think it's worth it, but you have to be willing to make that lifestyle change and be willing to look a little funny looking for a little while until they get better at it, or until you get better at it if you're cutting your own hair. I couldn't imagine cutting my own hair though. I mean, how would I be able to see what's going on in the back? I don't know. That would seem a little rough. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's going to wrap up this podcast episode. If you have any thoughts about just the previous segment that we talked about, any frugal hacks that you use, or any differing opinions than what I have about the hacks that we talked about today, then go ahead and let me know down in the comments down below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and do that. And if you haven't liked the video yet, go ahead and do that as well. And thank you for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. See you next time.